But anyway, thank you for coming today. We have Dan Clark here. He's a GRU employee. He's very capable person of talking about running from couch to 5K. Lots of people have questions about that. How do I do that? How do I get started in running? How do I get started in running a 5K, marathon, what have you? But Dan's going to be here talking to you all about that. So whatever questions that you may have, please direct them to him because he's the expert in running and I'm not. So without any further ado, welcome Dan Clark.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I did not expect this many people. This is pretty cool. Basically my title is Resident Running Geek. I'm just a runner. I've been a runner since I was a little guy. I ran in high school, ran in college. I have a coach, and my coach is an awesome guy. I was just telling PJ, my coach is 75 years old. He just won national titles at the Masters, USATF championships in the 10K and the 5K. His 10K time averaged 7.5 minutes per mile for 6.2 miles at age 75. So he is my coach because I want to be him. I come to you not really sharing that I'm so smart, but that I've had a really smart coach and I've met a lot of really great people that I've learned a lot from. So what I want you to come out of this with is a confidence that I'm going to give you some resources that you can go to that will tell you what you need to do to be able to run a 5K or a 10K or just improve a running program. And I want you to learn at least enough of the science and the basis of it that you have the confidence that what you're doing is the right thing. Because that's half the battle, is the self-confidence and the motivation to actually do it and know that you're doing the right thing. I am a certified coach through Roadrunners Club of America, so that basically means I took a class and passed a test. But those concepts, what I find remarkable is it doesn't matter your speed, those concepts apply all the way through from elite runners to beginning runners and everything in between. So if you get the basic concepts, then you can apply it to where you are and make it work. All right, so before you start, this is the obligatory, don't do this if you're going to hurt yourself kind of thing. Make sure your doctor's okay with you starting a running program. If you've had any running injuries, go to a physical therapist and make sure you've got enough strength so that you're not going to re-injure something, that sort of thing. Another key, get good shoes. A lot of people will go out and they'll just start running whatever tennis shoes or sneakers they pulled out of the closet that they've been using to mow the grass for the last 10 years. It's not a good idea. How do you define good shoes? You don't. It's hard. What I would tell you is go to a running specialty store that has a shoe wall that looks like that picture up there where they've got a lot of selection, try on lots of different stuff, ask lots of questions, and really take your time doing it. It doesn't matter if you get Brooks or Mizuno or Saucony or Nike or whatever. Try on lots of different stuff. There are two stores in town that I recommend. One is Lloyd Clark Sports, and the full disclosure there is they sponsor me as a runner, so I love them. They're awesome. They've been there for 30 plus years on 13th Street, just north of campus. And I also have discount cards. If you need running shoes, get a discount with them. The other one that's great in town is in the mall. It's called Fit to Run. The guy that's the manager there ran track at UF. He knows his stuff. He trains his staff. They're pretty good people. So if you need running shoes, those are the two places to go. Because if you just go to Sports Authority and buy something that's on sale, you might end up hurting yourself pretty quick before you even get going with your running program.
What was the name of the first store?
Lloyd Clark Sports.
What's your brand?
Well, you see, this is a good question. I have, for general mileage days, I have a pair of Newtons and I have a pair of Brooks that I rotate. For trail shoes, I've got a pair of something called Innovate, which is kind of a small niche company. My racing shoes are Saucony and my tempo shoes are Saucony. So you can see I'm very brand loyal. I pick the stuff that works for the purpose of what I'm going to run. So it varies depending on it. And yeah, I rotate 5 pairs of shoes every week, but I'm a little bit off and a little bit weird, so you don't necessarily need to do that. This is the key scientific concept that all the other stuff I'm going to talk about is based on. So if you have a question about what a threshold pace is, make sure you ask it. Basically, think of it as an RPM gauge for your body. You know, in your car, if you run those RPMs up into the red section, what's going to happen? Pretty soon, your engine is going to blow out. It's going to overheat. Something bad is going to happen. Same thing with your body. You've got a pace where you can walk or run, and your lungs and your heart keep up just fine. You're getting enough oxygen. Your muscles can keep going almost indefinitely. Your threshold is where you start going fast enough that the muscles are saying, send me more oxygen, send me more oxygen. And your lungs are going, I'm sorry, that's all I've got. And you start getting behind. You start getting an oxygen debt, and then that's triggers something that's called lactate threshold, where lactic acid, which is a byproduct, starts building up. And that's when your leg muscles start going, ow! So over threshold, you start having all these effects of being really out of breath and your legs hurting and all that. Under threshold, you can keep going. So there are a few different ways to determine what is your threshold. You can get a heart rate monitor, and those are great tools. Does anyone use a heart rate monitor? We've got one back, okay, a couple of them. I've used them before. It's a great tool. There's a formula where you figure out your max heart rate and your resting heart rate, and you assign percentages to your range. And then you know that I should be at, 140-something beats per minute for my training zone to be under threshold. And I know that at 155, I'm over threshold. So you can read it on your watch, and you know, and then you train by that. It's a great way to gauge your effort. I like the talk test because it's easy and it's logical. If you have a friend that you're walking or running with, if you can hold a conversation with them without gasping for air, you are below your threshold. If you're running and you have to gasp every 2 words and really breathe hard, you're over your threshold. So as silly as it sounds, if you don't have a running partner, try singing a song while you're running or walking. And if you're walking and you're walking really brisk and you start trying to sing the Brady Bunch song and you can't gasp it out, you're over that red line. So you can do it a lot of different ways, but whether you're under or over that threshold is kind of what makes sense for how you do your training. Does anyone have a question on that? Did I explain that pretty well? Yes.
By a threshold, does it mean sustainable, and you can just go on forever at that stage?
Yeah, just below it, theoretically, you could go forever, until you run out of blood sugar and stuff like that. But yeah, you're getting enough oxygen to the muscles in enough time for them to keep operating. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to go for a long time before the duration starts factoring into it. So, okay. So there are 3 types of runs that are included in any workout plan, whether it's the couch to 5K or what I do or what an elite runner does. You can break them down into more detail and more categories than this, but basically, you've got a long run, which is definitely below threshold pace, and you're doing it 45 minutes, an hour. My long runs are 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but it's below that threshold pace. It's long, sustained, where you can breathe and you can talk. That's a great one to do with a friend, where you just have kind of a social time, but you're out there moving, whether it's hiking or jogging or running. That's what you're looking for there. Tempo run, longer duration, but you're over that red line, but you're not way over the red line. And then you've got interval running, which I'll talk about in a little more detail. Okay, long run, conversational pace, like I was just saying. It's important to do a little warm up and a cool down with any of these. Ease into it. I will tell you that I go out running with some younger guys sometimes, and man, they just start out too fast. They step out and they just start rolling. I'm going, guys, first mile, chill, warm up. I need to get everything working. And that's the smartest thing to do. Take that first 5 minutes or so easy, then get into what you're doing, take a few minutes at the end to slow it down. Intervals, and this is what you're going to see a lot of if you download one of the Couch to 5K type programs or anything else. And the way it would start out, the first day you might see that has an interval plan for a Couch to 5K, it's going to be a 1 minute hard and a minute and a half easy, which basically means for 1 minute, you go into that red zone, you go over that threshold to where you're really working, and then you take a minute and a half and you either walk or you jog or you run slower to where you're below that threshold and you let your body recover for a minute and a half. And then what do? You throw it right back over that red line for a minute. And so you're just, the whole time, you're going like this with your effort. Hard effort, easy effort. Hard effort, easy effort. And the purpose of that is to trigger certain things in your body so your lungs and your heart say, oh my gosh, she's going to keep doing this to me. I better do something about that. And it starts building extra capillaries to deliver more blood. It improves how much oxygen your lungs can actually absorb. There are all kinds of things that start happening when you cause that short-term stress and then the rest. So you want to hit that short-term stress. And what you'll see in the intervals in a Couch to 5K, it starts with 1 minute on, minute and a half off. Then it'll go to a minute and a half hard and a minute and a half easy, alternating for 20 minutes. Then it'll go to 2 minutes hard, 1 minute easy, and you'll alternate that. And then the next week you'll see it'll be 3 minutes hard, 1 minute easy. And you see the progression where it'll get you eventually up to like 4 or 5 minutes hard and 1 minute easy. And that's that progression that you can sustain that hard effort a little bit longer as you get in better shape. So that is the staple of a Couch to 5K program that you would download online and follow the day by day. Here's what you're going to do. And the important thing is the hard easy, it doesn't have to be run walk. It doesn't have to be run jog. It can be walk hard, walk easy. It really depends on where you are with your fitness and what you want to do. The key factor is your effort in it. If a really brisk walk gets you out of breath, that's your hard, and that's fine. It doesn't matter so much the speed you're going or the distance you're accomplishing as it is how long are you pushing your heart and lungs up above that threshold and then letting it come back to rest. Then we have the threshold runs or the tempo runs. And this is where you don't throw it way up in the red zone. You get like right to the line and try to hold it there for an extended period of time. You're not going to see this in a Couch to 5K program until week 4 or 5. And I think there's a good reason for that. You have to kind of go the hard easy to get the feel for where those lines are and how hard you have to go to accomplish that, because this is a tricky effort level to find. The first time you try a tempo run or a threshold run, inevitably you're going to go too hard. You're going to say, I'm going to sustain this for 10 minutes, and 3 minutes into it you're going to go, oops, that was a little bit too hard. I can't sustain this for 10 minutes. So that's the tricky thing with a tempo run is hitting that right pace where you're right about at that red line but not quite over it, so you can sustain it for eventually a 20-minute time period. That is a great workout that really tells you where you are in your progression. It's a mentally tough workout, so it really tests your mental toughness of, okay, can I hold at this level of discomfort and keep going? But it's a great one physiologically too, because it keeps your heart rate up for a long time and really gives you a good workout. It's also the trickiest one to get the feel for. Okay, does anyone have questions on any of those 3 basic type workouts? And what you'll see when you pull any standard workout, you'll see those 3 different types of things in there, and you just have to understand what you're trying to accomplish with each of them. All right, running form. Who thinks they have great running form? You'd be surprised. A lot of us probably have better running form than we think. And what I find is a lot of people, when they try to have good running form, that's when they actually mess it up. So because one of the key factors is being pretty relaxed. You don't want to be too stiff and uptight because then you're going to mess things up. If there's one thing most people can do to help their walking or their running, it's shorten your stride some. A lot of people want to have that long, loping stride, and they want to, get out there and take those big, long steps and glide along. The problem with that is when you overextend, it's almost like putting on the brakes because you got to hit there, and so it stops you to reach out too far. You shorten your step, and you're more underneath your center of gravity, whether you're running or walking. So shorter steps is an easy way to improve your form. With running, a stride rate of 170 to 180 steps per minute. Now, it's hard to count that fast, so only count your right foot is what I say. So just hit stopwatch and count every time your right foot hits the ground. And hopefully, you should get to 80-something to 90-something by the time the minute is up. I know my stride rate naturally, before I started working on it more, was in the 160s. It's consistently high 170s now because I've kind of adjusted my stride accordingly. And the other question that people always have, so, okay, wait a minute. So it doesn't matter if you're running 5-minute miles or 15-minute miles? That's correct. It's just, if you're running a slower pace, it's like this. You're taking short little steps. But if you're going slower and you're taking longer steps like this, the impact that you're putting by reaching out, you're really jamming onto your heel. And that's what causes running injuries frequently, is people hitting too hard, and that's where you see the overuse injuries with things. So stride rate naturally shrinks your stride, naturally forces you to land underneath your center of gravity without having to try to think about all sorts of other biomechanics. Now here's a fun one. Now, how many people have seen someone who they like barely clear the ground when they're running or walking? It's like this. Man, if there was a pebble there, they're going to catch it, Well, other than tripping over stuff, there's another good reason why you want to actually pick your heel up and carry through. Who watches the Winter Olympics? Winter Olympics fans. Who likes ice skating, figure skating? Awesome. All right. So, you see him, the pretty girl in this here, and she's spinning like this, right? What happens, and she's got one leg out. What happens when she pulls everything in like this? She goes super fast all of a sudden. It's basic physics. You put stuff out there, it slows it down. You pull it in tight, it speeds it up. So if you're swinging your leg way out here, like a pendulum, it's nice and slow. You shorten your leg up and carry it through like that. I just shortened my leg. I just made myself more efficient. So it's a lot more effort to swing your leg like this and shuffle than it is to pick it up and put it around. You actually save energy and become much more efficient by doing that. Now, you can take it too far, and you see people who are just barely jogging and they're kicking their butt. Well, you shouldn't be up there kicking your butt unless you're sprinting. But a good measure is if someone's running behind you, they should be able to look at the heel, and your heel should kind of cover up the back of your knee. So it should be at least high enough that your heel is almost even with the back of your knee. The faster you go, the higher it's going to come, because you push off harder and it's going to carry up more. But the main point is, don't leave it way down here skimming the ground. You're using more energy. You're better off picking it up and carrying it through. All right, arms. And one of the things I find, it's easier to think about what your arms are doing than what your legs are doing. So if you're trying to fix your running form, think about what your arms are doing because it's easier. Don't cross the midline. If your hands are going like this, walking or running. If you're walking like this or running like this, equal and opposite reaction, right? Physics. So if you're doing this foot's probably kicking over like this. If you're kind of to the midline and about centered like this, then your legs are probably tracking straight ahead and forward much as they should. Same thing, you should be about 90-degree angle from about your hips up to about your chest height. When you're sprinting, they're going to get up higher. If you're really working hard in a workout, you might swing a little higher. But it should be from about here to here, generally speaking. You don't want a whole lot of this action. It's just unnecessary. And also your shoulders. A lot of people, if you start going like this with your shoulders when you're running, it means your hips are doing this. And then what are your knees doing? Your knees are doing this. And all that torque action is going to take its toll somewhere. So whether it's a hip injury or a knee injury or an ankle injury, if your shoulders are going like this when you're running, it's going to pick the weakest link and something's going to break. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen eventually. So, your shoulders can move a little bit, but you don't want them to be twisting too much, and you certainly don't want your hands going across the midline like that. The way I always explain it to kids, which way's the finish line? It's that way. So why are you moving your hands that way? Why are you moving your feet off to the side like that? The finish line's there. You want to move everything, in a straight line towards the direction you're trying to go. And that, it just keeps you biomechanically straight and less likely to have a problem. All right, I like this picture. The first guy, you can see his foot is about to strike, and he's going to strike right about under his center of gravity, a little bit ahead of it, and he's going to hit either with a flat foot or a little bit on the ball of his foot, right? The second guy, who you can't see now, if you look at his heel, he's going to land with his heel, driving his heel straight into the ground. You can almost see the shock waves going up from his ankle to his knee to his hip. Not to mention he's hitting so far in front of his center of gravity, it's like putting on the brakes. So that's what happens when you heel strike and you overstride. And you're just causing those shock waves to go straight up your leg. So that's why shortening your stride. That guy's going to have a shorter stride. You can almost see the distance between their feet is, the one guy, the second guy, has a nice long-looking stride, which probably some people would look at and say, oh, nice, graceful, long stride. He's killing his knees. So that's the reason you want to shorten the stride up, hit under your center of gravity so you're not pounding that heel into the ground. This is Ryan Hall, who's one of the best American marathoners. And you look at him, his foot's going to come down. It's going to hit just in front of his center of gravity, come down. He actually is a very flat-footed almost striker. He doesn't hit with his heel or his forefoot. It's midfoot, really pretty flat. But more important than whether you hit with your heel or your forefoot or flat is that you don't hit far out in front of your center of gravity, that you're hitting like just in front of your center of gravity. All right, hydration, summertime. We obviously need to make sure we have enough water. For sessions under 2 hours, you really don't need Gatorade. It's a lot of sugar and you just don't need it. If you're going to be out there for a long time, like maybe you're going to a softball game and you're going to be out there for a few hours and going on and off the field and sweating, drink some Gatorade. Probably a good idea. If you're going out for a 30-minute run, you don't need Gatorade. Just drink some water. That's the best thing for you. To plan your runs around Gainesville, it's pretty easy because there are water fountains in a lot of places, and runners learn to find water fountains wherever the heck they are. We seek them out and know where they are. So, when you're driving around or when you're riding your bike or running, spot where the water fountains are, and then you can grab it during the run. Out in the woods, I bring a water bottle, and I carry it partway, and I drop it. And then when I'm on my way back in, I've got water. Yeah, so you can do things. You can have someone leave water bottles out for you if you want to. But during the summer, make sure you drink frequently when you're out there running or biking or whatever. There is nothing worse than being stuck out there and going, oh man, I'm thirsty. So it's pretty easy to plan for it. Just think about it and work it into what you're doing. This might be the most important part of anything I'm going to say. You got to find what motivates you to do this, because I guarantee you waking up early and going out and running isn't always what's the first thing you want to do in the morning. You've really got to find what motivates you. And whether it's running or whatever it is in fitness, for me, it's straight up, it's competition. I want to compete, I want to run fast, I want to beat people. There's no bones about it. And what I do the level of running I do probably isn't considered healthy. My physical therapist tells me that anyway. But that's what motivates me. When I'm not competitive, I am not motivated to actually get out the door and do anything. So I have to go to the level of being competitive to be motivated to do it. For some people, it's pick an event, and I've signed up for this event, and it's 2 months from now, and I'm going to train for it and get ready and do it. And that's the motivation. For some people, it's, you know what, I really like that group that I go meet up with because I just have a lot of good friends there, and the social aspect and the friendships and those sorts of things is what really motivates you. By the way, there are some great group runs in town. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'll tell you how to find them and where they are. But that's great motivation because then if you don't show up to the group run, someone's going to email you and say, where the heck were you? You know, and a lot of the group runs, PJ, you'll like this, have beer. They run from World of Beer and Tipples and some other places. So, you know, it's a...
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. See, I'm here to help. But for a lot of people, it's that social aspect of you go after work, you go for a run, get all sweaty with a bunch of people, and you have a beer and you go home. It's great. You know, it's whatever is going to motivate you to do it. So think about that first before you pick a training plan or pick what you're doing. You know, really think about what's going to make you actually do it. Make a plan, work your plan, and most importantly, have faith in your methods. My coach has said that to me for years because we've seen some people who are pretty darn good, and you look at their training methods and you go, how does he run so fast off such stupid training? Well, he works pretty hard and he believes in it. So really, truly, I want you to find something that you can be motivated about and you can believe in because that's the most important part of you actually doing it. And there's a huge, massive difference between doing it and not doing it in terms of your health. So make sure whatever you're doing, you have faith that it's the right stuff. Those 3 basic runs, long run, tempo run, interval run, work those in some way, shape, or form. That's the right stuff. You can kind of make and mold those to make it fit for yourself. Pretty simple. Then you have faith that you're doing the right stuff. You find what motivates you, you're going to have success. So I hope some of those bits of basic knowledge will give you the faith to know that once you get it going and you do something and you work at it, it's really going to work. These are resources. C25K, that stands for couch25k.com. They have an app for your phone. They have free stuff you can download and print out, and it says week 1. Run this on one day, run this on another day, run that on another day. It's real specific, you know, laid out for you, so it's a precise plan, which some people really love. They wake up in the morning, they read it, and they go run it. They don't want to have to think about it. They want to just go do it. And so that website has a lot of good downloadable basic training plans that work well. The Runner's World stuff does too. If you go to Runner's World, they have a whole training section, and you can pick what training level you want, and you can just print out, you know, free training plans. And you don't have to do exactly what they say, but it gives you a good framework for what you want to do. Lloyd Clark Sports, like I said, they're good people, good resources for running events, for running groups, for a lot of local stuff, for the motivation kind of thing. Jeff Galloway. Anyone heard of Galloway groups? Yeah. Jeff Galloway was a 10K Olympian and a great marathoner, one of the original members of the Florida Track Club locally. And he made a name for himself promoting a run-walk method to do half marathons and marathons. It works. It's awesome. You run a mile and you walk for a minute. And you know what? You can go a lot farther when you do that because while you're walking, you're actually drinking water and getting hydrated and fueling, and you keep going. It's not the method I use. I don't always recommend it for people, but by gosh, it works. He's got thousands of people who finished marathons doing it, and they have group runs that do it. So it works really well. This presentation is at CoachDanClark.com, so if you want to download what I had, you can pull that PowerPoint down and grab that too. Yes, sir.
Compare the training methods that you've been talking about to doing it on a treadmill.
Okay, well, you can do the same thing on a treadmill, and you can push yourself over the red line in two ways on a treadmill. You can increase the incline and decline, or you can increase the speed. So you can do the same kind of thing, or you just speed it up for a minute, slow it back down, or you can do the incline decline to make the hard easy aspect of it. The only downside to treadmills is that there's the principle of specificity. If you're planning to go run a 5K that's out on the roads, I would suggest you do most of your training on the roads. Do some of it on the treadmill if that's convenient and it works for you. And especially for women, if you got to do your training real early in the morning when it's dark, run with somebody or do it on a treadmill. Don't be out there by yourself in the dark running around. It's just not a good plan. So treadmills have their place, and you can just apply the same concepts to it.
Is the effort significantly different?
It's going to be pretty similar. There's a learning curve. For me, it's harder to run on a treadmill because I don't do it very often, and I don't really like it. So what my heart rate would be on a treadmill at a given pace is going to be a little bit higher than it would be just out running on the roads, because I don't like the treadmill. Yes, Joanne?
People like to run with their dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good thing about pace? When you're running a pace, when you're running with the dog, is that a good thing?
Dogs are great. The only problem I've seen when people run with dogs is it messes with their running form, either because the dog is pulling them or because they don't swing their hand that has the leash or something along those lines. But if you have a dog that's well-trained and is going to stay with you and run your pace, it's good. It's great companionship, good protection. I've got a dog that I run with out in the woods sometimes, and as long as she doesn't see a deer, I'm okay. Yes, sir.
Two things. Where do hills fit in? Because I'm a huge believer in hills.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, in posture, what about your head? Because the more tired you go, you want to tell them about that?
Yeah. Well, okay, hills first. Hills are a great way to build strength and improve your running form, because if you're going uphill, you're forced to drive your knee up high, and it's a great way of doing interval training. So if you have a shorter hill, like by the law school, from Lake Alice to up by the law school is a great about 200-meter hill.
No,
It's more than that. It depends on where. Yeah, but I mean, so if you want to, on one of your interval days, run up the hill and run down the hill, run up the hill, run down the hill. It meets that pushing over the red line and taking a rest. It meets that requirement, and it also gives you some great leg strength. Same thing with stadiums and that kind of thing. It meets that interval concept where you work hard and then take a rest, work hard, take a rest, and it's good for your muscles. It's true, when you get tired, one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to start going like this, and then your shoulders are going to go like this, and then you're going to go like this, and then your hips are going to go like this, and you're going to be shuffling along. It's like you're trying to crawl into the fetal position slowly but surely, which is pretty accurate at the end of a marathon. But you're right, the first signal is the head starts to drop. That's kind of the first in the link of the chain reaction of, my gosh, I'm tired, I'm about to fall apart, is your head goes from looking ahead and being happy and looking around and all the pretty stuff to staring at, shuffling what's right in front of you. So that's a good point. It's that you keep your head up, it naturally opens up your whole posture and keeps you, more straight with your upper body and everything else. I had a coach at University of Florida who noticed that I was not one of the best guys. I was kind of the middle of the pack guy. So when the end of the workout, when the good guys would start pulling away from me, when I mentally gave up, the first thing I would do, I'd stop looking at the backs of their shoulders trying to hang with them. I'd go like this. And this coach would go, "Head up, Clark!" And I can still hear that in the back of my head to this day. I get tired in a race, and I catch myself going like this, and I can hear Coach Pete in the back of my head, "Head up!" Because it makes a difference. It's that mental shift of, are you looking ahead of you, or are you, looking down? Any other questions, comments, ideas, thoughts?
For for the heavier people in the room, myself, since I resemble that number, shoes. I bought it from Gaines Running and Walking, couple shoes, $150 a pair. They lasted 6-7 months on the outside, and inserts. Had to buy some really expensive inserts. One, because of my weight, and because of the shock on my knees. So I'm doing stationary bikes and treadmills as opposed to running. Should I consider is it the shoe and the combination? Would that be helpful to me? Or should I work on the weight loss first?
Well, it's all of the above. I mean, the more weight you're carrying, the more impact you put on everything. And most of the benefit you're getting is from the midsole, that foam part of the running shoe. The inserts add a nice feel to it. They don't really do that much for shock absorption. They feel pretty good, especially if you're on your feet for a long time. But in terms of that kind of impact, the inserts aren't doing much for you. It's really the shoe that's doing the work. Treadmills are softer than concrete and pavement, and dirt and grass are softer than any of them. So if you're having struggles with, oh gosh, something's really injured, or it's just achy from running on sidewalk, try to get on some wood chips and some trails and grass and dirt. The other benefit of getting off the smooth surface is that, okay, so if you're running on grass, you're going to hit uneven spots. So that means your foot hits and it has to tweak a little bit this way or that way, and you have to balance yourself, and you're using all these balance muscles on the sides of your legs and sides of your ankles that you don't typically use, which is great because you're working different muscles and you're not taking the pounding. So doing stuff off-road, I always recommend. I get 60% of my miles on grass and dirt. I try to stay off pavement as much as I can. And it's good in terms of the cushioning. Anyone else?
How long should a pair of shoes last? I would probably burn them out, I would say. 'Cause you're using a lot of miles.
Yeah, I would go by miles on the shoes typically. A lot of the shoe companies will tell you 300 to 400 miles on a pair of shoes. You can probably go to more like 500 miles on a pair of shoes. It also depends on the type of shoe and the type of runner. I can get 600 or 700 miles on a pair of shoes because I'm pretty light on my feet and I don't beat them up too terribly. Someone else, maybe they should at 350 miles start thinking about changing them out. The other thing is the types of shoes I buy are, I don't get into the real minimalist, super thin stuff, but they're definitely on the lighter side. So they're going to wear out faster than if I was buying something that was heavier. And also I run a lot on dirt, so they don't wear out as fast. But you don't look at the hard black stuff on the bottom and go, oh, I've worn through that. I'm done with these. No, that cushioning has been gone long before you wear through the black rubber that's on the very bottom. So it's one of the first things my coach always asks, I go, yeah, such and such has been aching. And he says, do you rotate your shoes out? Because he knows once that cushioning is gone from those shoes, you don't necessarily notice it because it fades away gradually, but you'll get those telltale aches and pains. And you just need some fresh shoes. Yes, sir.
Can you touch on breathing a little bit? Best way to breathe while running?
I highly recommend it. I've seen all kinds of things where some people want to have a certain rhythm, like breathe in 2 steps, out 2 steps. Then there was some recent research that says you can actually exhale faster than inhale. So you should, I think they were saying, inhale for 3 steps and exhale for 1 step. So it's more of that kind of a pattern as opposed to an even in-out. I don't think it matters so much the pattern and how you do it as that you're relaxed with it. And if you feel yourself, kind of tightening up here and like, that's bad because you're just going to tighten everything up. I have never seen a competitive runner finishing a race with their mouth closed. You get more oxygen in with your mouth open. And I know some people are hesitant to do that because they feel like they look silly running down the road. open your mouth. You get more oxygen in, you know, especially if you're doing an interval, you know, hard interval, where you're hammering out that 2 minutes hard. Open your mouth, you know, really get that oxygen in. Did that help, or? Okay. All right, Rod, sounds like we've got them all wrapped up